When I brought my baby to family dinner, my mom made a shocking demand. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. My mom stared at my newborn and said, "Give her to me." The dining room went silent. Forks hovered in midair, candles flickered, and my daughter, Emma, made a soft little squeak against my shoulder like even she knew something was wrong. Mom didn't blink. She just sat there at the head of the table, perfect blowout, perfect lipstick, hands folded like she was asking for the salt and not my entire life. "What?" I croaked. My throat felt like sand. "You heard me, Jess," Mom said calmly. "If you really love this baby, you'll let me raise her. Sign temporary guardianship. We'll make it official." Liam's hand tightened on my knee under the table. On my right, my sister Katie stared down at her plate so hard I thought she'd burn a hole through it. No one moved. No one said a word. I'm Jess, 27, new mom, sleep-deprived, and currently watching my family pretend this is a normal conversation. I work as a daycare supervisor, which Mom calls babysitting in a glorified broom closet. We live in a tiny apartment we can barely afford. Mom has the big house, the spare rooms, the money, the connections, the reputation. And she knows exactly what I stand to lose if I say no. Housing help, free childcare, the illusion of a close family, the last scraps of approval I've chased since I was old enough to understand that my mother loved control more than she loved comfort. "Carol," Liam said slowly, "you can't just." Mom cut him off with a look sharp enough to slice. "This is a family matter, Liam." She turned back to me, voice softening into that syrupy tone that always meant danger. "It's not an attack, sweetheart. I'm trying to stop history from repeating itself. You know you're overwhelmed." The word hung there, sticky and humiliating. And for the first time that night, I realized she wasn't just trying to steal my baby. She was about to drag a history into the light I didn't even know I had. I swallowed hard and asked her what she meant by repeating itself. And that's when everything truly started to unravel. I felt every eye in the room on me as she smiled like she'd been waiting years to answer that question. My mother's smile told me she'd planned this ambush long before Emma was born. To understand why that smile terrified me, you need to know who Carol raised me to be. Growing up, our house looked like a catalog. White couches we weren't allowed to sit on, matching holiday pajamas we weren't allowed to wrinkle, chore charts color-coded and taped inside cabinet doors. Mom ran us like a PR campaign. "First impressions are everything," she'd say, yanking a brush through my hair so hard my eyes watered. "No one respects a messy girl, Jess." If I cried, she'd hiss, "Stop being dramatic. You're not hurt, you're loud." When I got my job at the daycare, she laughed. "You're smart enough for something real. You think wiping noses is a career?" When I moved in with Liam, she told everyone at church that I'd run off with some boy, like I was 17 instead of 25. When I told her I was pregnant, she didn't smile. She just stared at me for a full 30 seconds and said, "You can barely manage yourself. How do you expect to manage a baby?" That one stayed lodged in my chest like a splinter. 2 weeks before Emma was born, we had our last big fight. She'd shown up at our apartment unannounced with a list. "You'll move into the guest room here after the birth," she informed me, sliding the paper across the table. "I'll handle feeding schedules, doctor appointments, visitors. We'll put my name on some documents so schools and hospitals listen when you inevitably spiral." Liam had laughed, thinking it was a joke. I didn't. "I appreciate the help," I'd said, voice shaking. "But we're raising our baby in our home." Mom's face hardened. "You are not ready for this, Jessica. You never were. When this blows up in your face, don't come running to me." She'd left in a flurry of perfume and slammed doors, and I'd sat on the couch sobbing into Liam's t-shirt, feeling 12 years old again. So when she looked at me across that dinner table now and said she was trying to stop history from repeating itself, I felt every old bruise on my heart throb at once. I didn't know it yet, but I wasn't just fighting for my baby's future. I was about to dig up the ugly truth about my own past. I had no idea my mother already had practiced taking someone else's baby. The first red flags started during my pregnancy, but back then I called them overprotective grandma vibes and tried to be grateful. Mom insisted on coming to every appointment. If Liam couldn't make it, she'd slide into the chair beside me like a substitute husband, answering questions before I could. "She'll breastfeed," she told the doctor once when I hesitated. "Of course she will. It's what good mothers do." I watched the doctor look at me instead of her, and I managed. We'll see what works for us. In the car afterward, Mom's hands strangled the steering wheel. You know I only want what's best, she muttered. I didn't have anyone to guide me. And look how that turned out. How what turned out? I asked. She blinked, like she'd said more than she meant to. Nothing. Just don't make my mistakes. At home, she started referring to the baby as my girl. My girl will need a proper nursery, not that shoebox you live in. My girl will be going to St. Mary's, obviously. I'd laugh uneasily, but she never did. Then there was the Facebook announcement. I told her we wanted to wait until the second trimester to go public. I woke up one morning to my phone exploding with notifications. There it was, a professionally edited photo of our sonogram. Mom tagged herself as soon-to-be Nana to my precious girl, arriving this spring. I called her, furious. You had no right, Mom. Oh, stop, she said. You're being sensitive. Families share joy. Don't ruin this. That night I sat on the bathroom floor, hand on my tiny bump, wondering if I was already messing everything up. The last straw came when she brought over a stack of legal forms as a joke. Just some emergency custody stuff, she chirped. If something happens to you and Liam, or if postpartum hits you hard. I've seen it so many times. I didn't sign. She pouted. Looking back, every one of those moments was a warning siren. But at the time, I chalked it all up to an anxious mother-turned-grandmother trying too hard. It wasn't until the day Emma was born that someone outside my head confirmed that Carol's obsession wasn't normal. The nurse's offhand comment about my mom still echoes in my ears today. Labor was a blur of pain, fluorescent lights, and Liam's hand clasped around mine. Mom stationed herself outside the delivery room like she owned the corridor, pacing in heels that clicked like a countdown. When Emma finally arrived, pink and furious and perfect, I sobbed with this wild, animal relief. They laid her on my chest, and the world shrank to the smell of her skin and the tiny weight of her against me. Mom barged in before the nurse even finished cleaning up. Let me hold her, she demanded, arms already reaching. The nurse stepped smoothly between us. Grandma can wait a moment. Baby's bonding with Mom right now. Mom's smile tightened. I am Mom, she snapped automatically, then corrected herself. I mean, I'm her mother's mother. I've done this before. I know what I'm doing. The nurse's eyes flicked to me. She's this baby's mom, she said calmly, nodding at me. Then she ushered Mom back a step like she'd done it 100 times. Later, when I was dozing and Emma was in the bassinet, that same nurse came back to check my vitals. She hesitated and then said quietly, if your mom keeps pushing boundaries, let us know. We've seen situations like this. Situations like what? I asked, suddenly cold. She shrugged, clearly not wanting to overstep. Let's just say some grandparents forget where the line is, especially when there's old history. What history? I pushed, but she just shook her head. Just remember you're the patient and the parent. You get a say? That night, while Liam snored in the chair and Mom sulked in the waiting room, I stared at my sleeping baby and thought about the way Mom had slipped and said, I am Mom. When we got home, the criticism began in earnest. You're holding her too much. You're spoiling her. She should be on a schedule. You're creating chaos. Every visit ended with me crying in the bathroom while Mom rearranged my kitchen for efficiency. Then, one afternoon, as I tried to nurse through cracked nipples and tears, Liam said, Jess, did your mom ever mention some big family drama about a baby before? My heart stuttered, because he wasn't the only one hinting at ghosts anymore. Liam's question cracked something open that my family had buried for decades. I started pulling back after that. Fewer visits. More, we're too tired tonight, texts. I blamed postpartum exhaustion. Mom blamed Liam. Oh, I see how it is, she sniffed on the phone. Ever since he came along, you think you don't need family. I looked around our cramped living room. Burp cloths everywhere, bottles in the sink, Emma fussing on my chest, and wished I didn't still want her approval so badly. Katie, my older sister, tried to play diplomat. Mom's just excited. She told me over coffee one morning while Emma slept in her stroller between us. You know how she is. Intense. She tried to get me to sign guardianship papers. I reminded her. Katie flinched, eyes dropping to her mug. She worries you're overwhelmed. Are you agreeing with her? I asked. Silence stretched. Katie and her husband had been trying for a baby for years. Miscarriages, failed IVF, quiet crying in bathrooms at family gatherings. I knew my pregnancy had been a knife in her heart, even if she never said it. It's not that, she finally murmured. It's just, Mom lost a lot when we were younger. She doesn't talk about it, but what did she lose? I pushed. Katie's jaw clenched. It's not my story to tell. Later that week, Aunt Nora came over with a casserole and that tired, sharp look she always wore around Mom. While she held Emma, she watched me carefully. You look like you're walking on eggshells, girl, she said. Mom thinks I can't handle being a mother, I admitted. Nora snorted. Your mother thinks no one on earth can handle anything without her. She sobered. Set your boundaries now, Jess. Before she decides this baby is her second chance at something. Second chance at what? I asked, heart racing. She opened her mouth, then shut it, eyes flicking toward the door like Mom might burst in. Just ask yourself what you don't know about when you were little. I lay awake that night replaying her words, the nurse's warning, Liam's question, Katie's flinch. There was a missing puzzle piece in my own childhood, and it was starting to feel like everyone but me knew what shape it was. I didn't realize the first solid clue would arrive in an envelope addressed to my mother. The clue showed up on a Wednesday, folded into the wrong mailbox. Our building's mailboxes stick. Sometimes we get our neighbor's junk. That day, a thick, official envelope with my mom's name and address ended up in our slot instead. Probably just a bill, Liam said, tossing it onto the counter. But the return address snagged my attention, a law office across town. Jess, don't, he warned gently as I stared at it. It's already been opened, I pointed out. The seal was half torn like the mailman had mangled it. I'll just see if it's something urgent. Then I'll tape it and drop it off. He sighed but didn't stop me. Inside was a letter referencing updated contact information regarding former case file 19C 0472 involving minor custody, and a note that due to recent changes in state law, biological relatives may request access to certain sealed records. My palms went icy. The letter was dated a week ago. I read it twice before Liam gently took it from me. Custody case, he said. Jess, did your parents ever talk about court? Like with you? I shook my head. Never. Dad left when I was 6. She always said he just couldn't handle family life. There was no court, no lawyers, nothing. Behind the letter was a photocopied page with my mom's handwriting in the margin from years ago. Same law office header, different date. Some lines were blacked out, but I could make out words, temporary guardianship, minor female, and a date from when I would have been about 4. Something in my chest flipped. Minor female, I whispered. That could be me. Or someone else, Liam finished softly. We stared at each other over the kitchen counter that suddenly felt like a crime scene. I slid the papers back into the envelope with shaking hands. We never talk about anything from before I was 6, I said. There are barely any photos. No stories. Just nothing. Maybe it's a misunderstanding, Liam offered, but his eyes said he didn't believe it. That weekend, when we went to drop off the envelope, Mom snatched it from my hands before I could speak. Mail mix-up, I started, but she'd already seen the sender and gone pale. Where did you get this? She demanded. In our box, I said slowly. Mom, what case is that? It's none of your business, she snapped, fingers crushing the envelope. You shouldn't have opened it. Boundaries, Jess. The irony almost knocked me over. As we left, Aunt Nora caught my arm by the driveway, her gaze laser-sharp. You saw something you weren't supposed to, she murmured. Did it mention a little girl? My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear my own voice when I answered her. Aunt Nora's next words made me realize I might have had a sister I never knew. What little girl? I whispered. Nora's eyes flicked toward the house, where Mom's silhouette moved frantically behind the curtains. Your mom will skin me alive if she knows I said anything. I'm 37 with my own child, I hissed back. I deserve to know if there was another kid. She studied my face for a long moment, then sighed like something heavy snapped inside her. There was a baby, she said quietly. Before Katie. Before you. My knees went weak. Liam stepped closer, his hand hovering at my back. What happened to her? I asked. That's the part Carol rewrote, Nora said. She tells people the baby died, that she lost her in the hospital. But that's not how I remember it. How do you remember it? In lawyers' offices. In shouting matches behind closed doors. In your mother insisting she knew best, even when everyone begged her to reconsider. My stomach twisted. Reconsider what? Nora hesitated. It's not my story to tell, Jess. But I'll say this. Your mom believes she was robbed of a chance to raise a child properly. She has never forgiven herself. Or anyone else. On the drive home, Emma fussed in her car seat while my brain ran laps. At home, I started digging. I pulled out the old photo boxes Mom had given me when she decluttered. There were pictures of baby Katie, toddler me, family holidays. But between Mom's wedding and Katie's first birthday, there was almost nothing. A whole year and a half missing. I went to the hospital where I was born, asking about old records. Anything before 1995 might be archived. The clerk said, bored, tapping on her keyboard. You can file a request, but it takes time. I filled out the forms anyway, Emma strapped to my chest in her carrier, her head heavy against my collarbone. Later, scrolling through my mom's old Facebook posts, I noticed something else. Every year on the same date, she posted vague quotes about grief and second chances without explaining why. I thought of the way she'd latched onto my pregnancy like a lifeline, the legal forms, the nurse's warning, that custody letter. I still didn't know exactly what happened, but one thing was becoming terrifyingly clear. My mom had a history of trying to control babies that weren't entirely hers to claim. The more I saw, the more I realized I couldn't walk into that upcoming family dinner unprepared. I decided if Mom wanted to make this about history, I'd bring the receipts. Once I decided I wasn't crazy, I went full detective. Sleep-deprived detective, sure, but determined. While Emma napped, I combed through my mom's kitchen drawers under the guise of looking for extra bibs. In the back of a file drawer labeled taxes, behind warranty papers and expired coupons, I found a thin manila folder with the same law office logo from the envelope. My heart thudded as I opened it. Inside were photocopies of legal documents, some pages half blacked out, but readable enough. Petition for temporary guardianship, 1993. Minor, female, name redacted. Petitioning guardian, Carol and Miller. Biological mother and father, names blacked out, but the last names didn't match my dad's. On one page, in the margins, was Mom's handwriting, doing what's best. They'll thank me someday. I snapped a photo with my phone, hands shaking. Liam found me hunched over the drawer when he got home. Please tell me that's not another bill, he said. It's worse, I managed, handing him my phone. He scanned the picture, then looked up slowly. She tried to take someone else's kid, he said. Or she did, I whispered. Or she failed. Or I don't know. But this looks exactly like the form she tried to get me to sign. We took the folder to Aunt Nora's house that night. Emma snuggled in her car seat between us on the couch. Nora put on her readers and went through every page, her face draining of color. I knew she went to court, Nora said. I didn't realize it went this far. Who was the baby? I asked. Is she alive? Did Mom actually? She was your cousin, Nora said softly. My daughter. The room tilted. Why your daughter? I stammered. Nora nodded, eyes shining. I was 19. I got pregnant out of wedlock. Carol decided I was unfit. She tried to get custody for the baby's own good. The court didn't grant permanent guardianship, but there was a nightmare tug of war. In the end, I signed adoption papers under pressure. Your mother told everyone the baby died. My chest felt like it was caving in. Does Mom know the truth? She knows enough, Nora said. She just rewrote the story so she could live with herself. But make no mistake, she believes that if she'd gotten full control, that child would have had a better life. She's been chasing that do-over ever since. I looked down at Emma, sleeping peacefully, and suddenly I understood exactly how dangerous my mom's version of love could be. That's when I realized her demand for Emma wasn't desperation, it was obsession. Knowing the truth made everything sharper, uglier. Every time Mom criticized the way I held Emma or implied I'd mess her up, I heard the echo, you're unfit, just like Nora. I stopped taking Emma to her house alone. If we visited, Liam came too. I kept conversations polite, neutral, refusing to rise to her bait. Mom responded by escalating. One afternoon, she showed up at our apartment with a binder. Since you won't move in with me, she said briskly, I've made a schedule to keep things from falling apart. Inside were color-coded charts, feeding times, nap times, acceptable visitors, a list of approved babysitters that was just her name in different fonts. At the back was a tab labeled emergencies with more legal forms tucked inside. Absolutely not, I said, slapping the binder shut. Jess, be reasonable, she snapped. I'm offering structure. You're drowning. I'm adjusting, I corrected. And even if I were drowning, you don't get to grab my kid as a life raft. Her face twisted. Is that what Nora's been telling you? That I stole her baby? The words slammed into me. So you admit it? She went still. I admit your aunt was a disaster who couldn't handle motherhood. Someone had to step in. The courts disagreed. And now you want a second shot with my daughter, I said. Her eyes flashed. I want what's best for Emma, which is clearly not this. She gestured around our cluttered living room, at the cheap furniture, at my unwashed hair. If you sign guardianship, I can get her into good schools, good doctors, a proper home. You mean your home, I said. You can visit whenever you're stable, she replied coolly. Something inside me snapped. Get out, I said. Excuse me. Get out, I repeated. Until you can talk about helping us instead of replacing me, you are not welcome here. She left in tears, calling me ungrateful loud enough for the neighbors to hear. That night, Liam and I sat at the kitchen table while Emma slept, the manila folder between us like a loaded gun. We need a plan, he said, because she's not going to stop. My phone buzzed with a new message just then, from Katie, inviting us to Sunday dinner at Mom's. She wants to talk things out, the text read. Please come, Jess. Don't blow up the family. I stared at the screen, then at the folder, then at my sleeping daughter on the monitor. If Mom wanted a showdown, I decided, she wasn't going to be the only one bringing paperwork to the table. I made an appointment with a lawyer, and that meeting changed everything for me. The lawyer's office felt nothing like the spaces my mom controlled. No scented candles, no tasteful throw pillows. Just neutral walls, shelves of binders, and a woman named Ms. Harris with tired eyes and a no-nonsense bun. I specialize in family law, she said, skimming the copies I'd brought. What exactly are you afraid your mother will do? Take my baby, I said bluntly. Or at least try. She's already pushed guardianship forms at me. And then there's this history. I slid the folder about Nora's case across the desk. Ms. Harris read in silence for a long time. Your mother sounds determined, she said finally. But determination and control issues aren't enough to strip a parent of their rights. Relief washed through me so hard I almost cried. So she can't just show up and claim Emma? Absolutely not, Ms. Harris said. Temporary guardianship requires your consent or a court finding you unfit. From what you've described, you're exhausted, not negligent. There is a massive difference. She tapped the old documents. This, though, worries me in a different way. People with unresolved custody trauma sometimes repeat patterns. If she genuinely believes the state stole a child from her, she may see taking over here as correcting that perceived wrong. Exactly, I said. So what do I do? Document everything, she replied. Save texts, voicemails. Keep copies of any form she gives you. If she threatens to call CPS, call us first. And if there's ever a scene where she tries to pressure you in front of others, having witnesses helps. The word witnesses stuck in my head. On the drive home, Liam squeezed my hand. So legally, she's got nothing, he said. Legally, I repeated. Emotionally, she's still my mother. She can make my life hell. And that's why we set boundaries, he said. And why you don't walk into Sunday dinner alone. I stared at the upcoming exit from my mom's neighborhood and made a decision that surprised even me. We're going, I said. But we're going on my terms. How, he asked. I'm going to bring Nora, I said slowly. And the folder. And the knowledge that if Mom corners me again, she's not the only one with a story to tell. For the first time since Emma was born, I felt something like power in my hands instead of just fear. That illusion of control almost shattered when Mom showed up unannounced the night before dinner. The knock came at 9 p.m., just as I got Emma down after an hour of bouncing and humming. I opened the door in leggings and an oversized t-shirt, hair in a greasy bun, fully prepared to tell off a door-to-door salesperson. Instead, it was Mom. She swept past me without waiting for an invitation, heels clicking on our cheap laminate floors. I won't stay long, she said, eyes already scanning the apartment. I just wanted to see my granddaughter before tomorrow. Emma's asleep, I said firmly. And you can't just. Relax, she snapped. I brought something. From her purse, she pulled out a velvet jewelry box. Inside was a tiny gold bracelet, the kind they sell for baby wrists. Emma engraved in curling script. It was custom, she said softly. I ordered it the day you told me you were pregnant. I wanted to give it to her tonight, in private, before we discuss logistics with the whole family tomorrow. What logistics? I asked carefully. She sighed, like I was being difficult. Jess, you know you can't keep doing this alone. I talked to a friend whose niece is a social worker. She says it's common for overwhelmed mothers to agree to guardianship arrangements for a while, just until they're stable. Liam stepped out from the hallway, voice calm. Jess is stable, he said. She has support. What she needs from you is respect, not paperwork. Mom's eyes flashed. Of course you'd say that. You turned her against her own family. I stepped between them. No one turned me. I said, I saw the documents from Nora's case. I know what you did. For a second, her mask slipped. Her face crumpled, then reformed into something hard and shiny. That was different, she hissed. She was a child. She was reckless. I was trying to save a baby from chaos. Is that what you think you're doing now? I asked. Saving Emma from me? If you'd just signed the forms, we wouldn't have to fight, she said. We could present it as a united family decision at dinner. Everyone would understand. A chill went down my spine. She'd already written the script for tomorrow. Me as the good, self-aware mother who gives her baby to a better home. I'm not signing anything, I said, heart pounding. She stared at me a long time, then smiled a cold, brittle smile. You'll regret this stubborn streak, Jessica. Don't say I didn't try. When she left, the apartment felt heavier somehow, like she'd filled it with invisible cameras. I went to bed with my heart racing, knowing tomorrow's dinner wasn't just a meal. It was a battle over who got to write Emma's story. I didn't expect the battlefield to smell like pot roast and lemon polish. Sunday dinner at my mom's house looked exactly like every Instagram-perfect family gathering you've ever seen. The table was set with her best china, crystal glasses lined up like soldiers, linen napkins folded into little swans. The smell of pot roast and garlic mashed potatoes wafted through the house. Act normal, Liam murmured as we walked in, Emma sleeping in her car seat. Katie greeted us at the door, eyes already red. She hugged me too tight. Thank you for coming, she whispered. In the dining room, Mom floated around topping off wine glasses, kissing cheeks, laughing too loudly. When she saw Emma, her face softened into that hungry tenderness that made my skin crawl. There's my girl, she cooed, reaching for the car seat. I kept my hand on the handle. She'll stay by me, I said evenly. Mom's jaw ticked. Of course, she said brightly. We're all just so happy you're here. Aunt Nora arrived a few minutes later, gave me a look that said, I'm here, I've got you, and took a seat near the far end of the table. Dinner started out almost normal. Small talk about work, weather, Katie's new project at the office. Every time conversation lagged, Mom jumped in with some memory of when you girls were little, carefully curated and harmless. My appetite was non-existent. My stomach twisted each time she reached for her water glass, expecting her to slam it down and start the performance. It happened over dessert. She stood, fork clinking against her glass, smile radiant. I wanted to thank you all for coming, she began. Family means everything to me, and tonight, I have something important to discuss. Liam's hand found mine under the table. Nora sat up straighter. Mom looked at me, then at Emma, then back at the table full of expectant faces. As you all know, Jessica has been struggling, she said, voice dripping concern. New motherhood is hard. She's been overwhelmed, isolated, and she came to me with a proposal that I think is very brave. My blood ran cold. She asked if I would consider becoming Emma's legal guardian for a while. Mom continued smoothly. Just until she gets on her feet. So tonight, I'd like us to support her in this selfless decision. Every head turned toward me. Katie's eyes were wide, hurt. Liam's grip on my hand turned to iron. Nora looked like she might actually leap across the table. I pushed my chair back, heart pounding loud enough to drown out the clink of silverware. That's a lie, I said, my voice shaking but clear. The room held its breath as I decided whether to stay quiet or burn everything down. Jess, Mom said sweetly, I know this is hard to talk about. I never asked you to be Emma's guardian. I cut in. I never agreed to anything. You've been pushing this from the moment you found out I was pregnant. Whispers rippled around the table. Katie frowned. Mom, is that true? Carol's eyes flashed. I have texts, she said quickly. Messages where Jess admits she's overwhelmed, where she says she can't do this. I said I was tired, I snapped. I said I was scared. That's what new moms say to people they trust. That doesn't mean I signed over my child. I reached into my bag with shaking hands and pulled out a small stack of printed emails and photos. You want to talk about paperwork? I said. Let's talk about paperwork. I slid the copies of the guardianship petition from Nora's case onto the table. The room went very still. A long time ago, I said, voice trembling, you tried to take Nora's baby. You went to court and told everyone you knew better than she did. When you lost, you pushed her until she gave up her child. Then you told the family the baby died. Nora closed her eyes. Katie looked between us like we were speaking another language. Jess, stop, Mom hissed. You're upsetting your aunt. No, Nora said hoarsely. Let her finish. I held up one of the papers. You wrote in the margins, they'll thank me someday. That was your justification. And now you're doing it again. You think if you take Emma away from my chaotic life, she'll thank you someday too. Katie's fork clattered onto her plate. Mom, she whispered, is any of this true? Mom's mask cracked. For a moment, I saw raw panic. Then anger flooded in to replace it. I did what I had to do, she snapped. Nora was a mess. That baby would have suffered. I was trying to save her. And now? I asked. Who are you saving now? Emma, she said instantly. From you. From your bad decisions, your unstable life, your daughter works full-time and loves her child, Liam cut in. She's not an addict. She's not neglectful. She's just not you, Carol. The silence that followed was the heaviest I've ever felt. Katie finally spoke, voice shaking. Did you really tell people my cousin died? Mom threw up her hands. People wouldn't understand. They'd judge our family. I was protecting us. You were protecting your image, I said. And you're willing to rewrite Emma's life for the same reason. Mom's eyes shone with unshed tears and something darker. You're making a mistake you can't come back from, Jessica. For the first time, I realized that might be true, and that I was willing to make it anyway. I took a deep breath and told my mother exactly what her future in Emma's life would look like. My mistake, I said slowly, was thinking I needed your approval to be a good mother. I stood up, legs trembling but steady enough. Here's what's going to happen, Mom. You are not going to be Emma's guardian. Ever. You are not going to show up with legal forms or call social workers or tell people I gave you my baby. She opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. From now on, any relationship you have with Emma will be on my terms, I continued. Supervised visits only, in public places, for as long as it takes for you to prove you can respect boundaries. If you can't, you won't see her at all. You can't do this, she whispered. Yes, she can, Nora said quietly. And if you try to push her like you pushed me, I will testify about everything. Katie's eyes filled with tears. Mom, I'm so sorry, she said. But Jess is right. This isn't love. This is control. Mom looked around the table like she didn't recognize any of us. Her face crumpled, then hardened again. Fine, she spat. Throw away my help. When you're drowning, don't come crawling back. I picked up Emma's car seat, my hands surprisingly steady. If I need help, I said, I'll go to people who don't need to own my child to give it. We left to the sound of raised voices behind us, Mom shouting about betrayal, Nora finally yelling back after decades of silence, Katie sobbing. In the car, Emma slept through the whole thing, her tiny fists curled up by her cheeks. At home, once she was settled in her crib, I sat at the kitchen table with Liam and finally let myself cry. It feels like I just set my childhood on fire, I sobbed. He held me. Maybe it needed to burn so you could build something better, he said. Over the next weeks, we found a therapist who specialized in family systems. I told her everything. She helped me untangle guilt from responsibility, fear from instinct. We also kept in touch with Ms. Harris, my lawyer, updating her on any messages from Mom. I drafted an email to my mother outlining our boundaries in writing, just like Ms. Harris had suggested. Visits by appointment only. No legal talk. No undermining me in front of Emma. Consequences if she crossed the line. I hovered over the send button for a long time, knowing once I clicked it, there was no going back to pretending we were a normal family. My fingers shook as I pressed send, wondering if I'd just made myself an orphan by choice. In some ways, I did. Mom's response came 3 days later, a 3-paragraph masterpiece of martyrdom and passive aggression. I hope you can live with this, she wrote. When Emma grows up and realizes you kept her from a grandmother who loved her enough to fight for her, I pray she forgives you. I forwarded it to Ms. Harris, who replied, this reinforces your concerns. Save it. Then I closed my laptop and went to sit on the floor with Emma. She was on her playmat, kicking at a crinkly toy, completely uninterested in generational trauma. I lay down beside her, watching her tiny fingers open and close. "Hey, Bug," I whispered. "I did something scary today." She gurgled, grabbing a fistful of my hair. I thought about the woman I'd been before Emma, someone who bent herself into shapes to fit inside my mother's expectations, who mistook control for care and silence for peace. Becoming a parent didn't magically fix me, but it gave me something I'd never had before, a line I would not let anyone cross. We started building new routines. Sunday brunch with Liam's calm, goofy parents. Walks in the park with Aunt Nora, who slowly told me more about the daughter she'd lost and the life she'd built in the aftermath. "I wish I'd had your courage back then," she said once, watching Emma nap in her stroller. I shook my head. "I only have it because you told me the truth," I said. Katie came around too, quietly. She showed up one afternoon with a bag of hand-me-down baby clothes from a coworker and tears in her eyes. "I'm not ready to cut Mom off," she admitted. "But I see what she did. And if you ever need a babysitter who won't file paperwork behind your back, I'm your girl." Life didn't become perfect. I still wake some nights panicked, wondering if I overreacted, if I ruined Emma's chance at a big extended family. Then I remember the way my mother looked at my daughter like a second chance instead of a separate person, and the panic eases. If you're listening to this and you have a parent like mine, someone who calls control love and rewrites history to suit themselves, here's what I've learned. You can't fix their story, but you can protect your child's. Therapy helps. Lawyers help. Chosen family helps. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do as a new parent isn't swaddling or sleep training. It's looking at the people who raised you and saying, "The cycle ends here, with me." I still don't know if my mother will ever change, but I know my daughter will grow up knowing that I did.